Hey everybody, welcome to a Render Spaz video tutorial, and today we are going to create this wonderful looking shot of, well, screws, I guess, something that just looks very very industrial, and just something I just thought that would look really cool, that you can use particles and build something like this. And obviously if you want, you can add more geometry to really mix this up and have some variation into this render. But for now, I'm just going to show you a simple process how you can create the screw, go through the materials, very simple material creation and lighting setup. Nothing to it too much, but if you follow along, you guys can create your own shots like this. Alright, let's get to it. Alright, so let's begin with creating our screw. So what we're going to do is we're going to go to our sphere tool here, and we're just going to drag out into the center of the viewport. Okay, I'm going to center these guys, make sure that they are in the middle of the grid. We're going to go into our front view here, and what we want to do is, I guess at this point we can squish this down just a bit, like so. We're going to come in and we are going to do a hemisphere about 0.5, so we get just half of this sphere. So this is going to be the head of the screw. So what we're going to do now is convert this to editable poly. And I'm going to come over and grab this vertex here. We're going to hold Control and click, and we'll get our face. Now what we're going to do is inset, like so. Okay, and then I'm going to drag this down holding Shift, so we get, now that might be a little bit too big, so let's bring down just a bit more here. Now hold Shift and drag down. Yeah, that looks better. And we are just going to grab this guy, like so. Let's get it maybe about here. And at this point, we are going to just scale it down, so we get the point. Okay, so we get something like this, and that should do maybe even this point vertex right here that's in the middle. We're going to grab that guy and just bring it down so it's got a little bit more of a sharpness to it. It should do. Okay. We're going to come to the top view, and we are going to go over, I'm just going to call this screw, and then we're going to come over to the splines. We're going to look for helix. And we're just going to go around the center here and just drag out something maybe like here. We're going to pull up, and one more time so we get this spiral. Alright, so you should see it because it's at the top here. So as we bring it down, now we can kind of see where we're at here. So if we change our height, you can see we're moving the helix up and down. So if we bring this down to the point where we want it to finish, which would, I would say, about here, and then we can just bring the height up until we get to the top. So I'm just going to drag this all the way up to about here for now. And then what we're going to do is, where it says our turns, we're just going to bring that way up so we get our threads like so. I don't want too many. I'm going to say maybe about 12. And then we're just going to take our radius and we're going to just bring this and taper this down in this area here. Okay, and then we also have our radius up top here. So we just want to kind of snug the sides here. We want this to intersect because it's important, because once we have this intersecting, this is going to, now when we start to combine our mesh together and we start to do some retopology, everything should kind of blend nicely. Alright, so let's grab the helix, and at this point what we can do is enable our render and enable it into the viewport so we can actually see some geometry going here. We have our thickness, so we're going to bring that guy down. But we really want to make sure it is intersecting in here. So that's going to be a nature of playing with the radius a bit here. So our thickness can come down a bit, and then our sides, let's just get something maybe like this for now. Okay, and then we can actually see our edges here. And so as we are bringing in, we just want this guys to all intersect, and they are doing that now, which is good. So just double check that. I think that's looking good. And then just our bottom one's going to have to obviously come down too as well. our thickness is way too high, so we're just going to bring that down. And we might now, at this point, we're looking at this, we might need a little bit more threads. So let's add some more turns, just a bit here. Okay, and then I'm just going to drag this guy out just a bit more. Just want to see some more edge here. Like that. Maybe down here. Okay, that's starting to look pretty good. And our thickness maybe could come up just a bit as well. Okay. Just want to make sure we are intersecting, and it looks like we are quite a bit all the way down. There's no spacing. I believe there is. Okay. And then our sides, we're just going to bring those up a bit so we get a little bit more geometry there, and that's starting to look pretty good as a screw. Okay. So at this point, what we want to do is in the screw itself, the base of it, we want to make sure we have an edge that we can chamfer here. So I'm going to actually, I know it's going to make a double edge here. If you look, when you do the hemisphere, sometimes you get an extra edge. So I'm just going to remove one of those. And I'm going to grab this edge and chamfer. I'm going to try, and we're just going to go like this. And then this way, we can also do the center here, that outer edge, and hit chamfer as well, just so we can get some nice light hits there. Okay. So now what? At this point, we want to grab our screw. We're going to go over into the modifier stack here. We're going to hit Boolean, and I am going to do a union, and I'm going to select our threads and hit it away, and there we go. So now we pretty much have everything combined it as one. That's good. Alright. So at this point, we just now need the top section to have its the cross part where the screwdriver would go in. So we can build that pretty straightforward here. We just have to go into maybe extended primitives. We're going to do a chamfer box, and I'm just going to drag out a box here. Not too big, but let's just see what happens. Okay, I'm going to just change our width. Just bring that down a bit. Something like this. Let's just center it. Okay, I'm going to grab this and go up. And what we're going to do is make sure our height is good. Okay, so there's something like that. And with our fillet, we can just bring that just slightly down. Make sure we're intersecting like this. I'm going to go grab another one of these. I'm going to make sure our angle snaps on, and I'm going to hold shift and just drag so it's 90 degrees, and hit OK. And now we have this guy, right? So I'm going to grab one of the chamfer boxes, convert this to an edible poly. We're going to attach, or actually no, we're going to go into Boolean as well. We're going to just make this a union, so that's one. I'm going to convert this guy to edible poly. And here we're going to grab this guy under a Boolean, and now we're going to add this to our list. Okay, so we're just going to make this a subtract because we're going to cut this out. So let's just do that, and we have something like this. Okay, so that's already looking pretty good. You can pretty much use this if you wanted to, and you can have Arnold actually give you some nice rounded corners with the material. But I'm just going to, I want some imperfections. It doesn't like, a screw doesn't need to look so perfect anyway, so we can get away with kind of combining some meshes and or doing some retopology and kind of meshing these all together. So what I'm going to do is convert this to an editable poly now that we're happy with the booleans. We have our union on the threads, and we have our subtraction of our cross, right? So that's giving us this kind of look. Okay, so now let's go in, and if we were to use the retopology tool right now, and I was to try, what would we get? Would we get a good result or no? Okay, so right now you can see this is not really a good result. It's giving us a lot of triangles. This is not what I want. This is not what I'm looking for. So let's undo that. And let's try doing an open subdivision. Okay, so we get something like this. I know it looks a little bit strange. Okay. But now once we convert this to an edible poly, and then we do the retopology tool, let's try this again. But let's try this at maybe at 1000. Okay, so we lost a lot of details. So we probably going to need it maybe back at 5000. Okay, that's looking pretty good, actually. Even with some little bit of imperfections, that's okay. Okay, because really, like, when you look at a screw, it's not, there's nothing really perfect about it. And it does look like it's meshed together, like the threads. And this would sell for my purposes, or the purpose of this video, of showing some of these screws in the render. So you'll see in just a moment what I'm getting at here. But right now, if we want, we can just go in and add a turbo smooth, and that will kind of clean up, everything here. So that actually looks pretty good. Okay, this will work. Okay, we'll just throw it to the side here, and now we will bring in our Tyflow. Okay, we're going to use Tyflow to give us a nice kind of a way to build up and bundle up a bunch of these screws together so we can make this cool render. Okay, so I'm going to use Tyflow and just go in, and now let's create a box to where the screws will be. So maybe some like right here. Convert this to an edible poly. Let's take out the front face. I'm going to flip this. So I'm going to bring that down just a bit. Just make it kind of more shallow. We'll go to shell. So we're just doing the outer edges here. The inner. Actually, we want to do the inner, so we can pull up this way. Okay. Center it. And so with Tyflow, we're going to want to bring up its editor, and we're using the free version of Tyflow. Okay, that's all we need for this. And what I'm going to do is I want to create a birth operator. Okay, we're going to start with that, and we're going to get this little point here at the bottom. And you can see that if I went to large dots, you're going to see where our first particle is. Okay, so I'm not going to give you a whole rundown of how Tyflow works and all that, but I'm just going to try to lay it all out so that you can actually see the result that I'm trying to get with this render with these screws. So I'm just going to be focusing on that. I'm going to do this as quick as possible. Okay. So what we're going to do is we need an area or an emitter to emit our particles, which would be the screw. So right now it's just sitting there at the ground. So what we're going to do is we need to now add in a Tyflow icon. Okay, and this is going to represent where our particles are going to come from. And right now, as you can see, the arrow's going down. You can get the idea that our particles are going to go down like so. But what we need to do is tie this in to our event so that we can start to emit those particles and drop them into this tray. Particles as in the screw. So let's go over in here and actually use a we're looking for a position icon, which is here. We're going to drag it up. Okay, and we are going to pick our icon here, our Tyflow icon. So now we can see our particles are being emitted as we drag it through the timeline, and that's pretty much our screws. Okay, so those are being emitted over a period of time in the timeline. So as you can see here, it's from 0 to 100, and we're getting a total of 200. So right now, what we need to do is we need to have these particles drop. So we need some gravity. And the way we're going to do that is at first, let me just go over and let's add a shape operator. So I'll bring that in, and the shapes we want it to be, we want this to be on geometry. Our shapes, we're going to have that 3D, and we're going to have them, just let's have them cubes for now. So we can see these cubes, okay, something like Cinema 4D. Get the whole cube thing going on, right? And you can do something with the effectors and all that stuff. So we're doing the same thing pretty much here. What we're going to do is we need these to drop. So we're going to go into our Tyflow and go into our properties here. And what we're looking for is our gravity. So it's physics, okay, and I believe our gravity's here, yeah. So right now we're at a -1, so it will drop once we apply physics to these cubes. So what I'm going to do, just to get a head start here, I just want to make sure we're going to do it 0.01, or actually maybe 0.1. We'll try 0.1 for now in the strength. And what we're going to do is come over to the physics shape, and we're going to drag that in underneath the shape modifier, or operator, okay? So this is going to now allow us to have physics. So you get what's going on here. So I'm just going to want to drop, pretty much, it's a very simple technique I want to do here is just drop the screws into this tray so we can get a bunch of them, right? I'm going to come over into our scale. Let's make sure, I don't know, let's go about maybe 20, 40, say. We want a lot of the screws to come down. But what I want to happen here is right now they're just kind of going down in one angle here. They're just going flat right down, right? So what we want to do is we want to add a spin operator. Okay, so I'm going to go over, actually one thing that you can do is hit the tab button, and you can come over here and just hit the spin, or you can just go down into the menu here and search for it there. I like to use that, and now we have a random a little bit of rotation to all our particles here. Okay, so kind of just falling like that. And now what we can do is let's start to change the shape into the actual, or these cubes into our screw. So I'm going to go over to our shape, and we're just going to select, well, we're going to remove this guy. So let's remove the cubes, and let's select our screw and say add selected. Now these things are huge. That's because our screw is actually really big. Alright, so if we bring that screw down, scale it down, actually I don't even know, let's see, does that work? Yeah, it's kind of cool looking. But what we want to do, I thought maybe if you would scale this down, it would actually scale these as well because it's an instance, but that's okay. It doesn't work like that. So let's go over into our shape and go down, and we're looking for our scale. So let's go to 20, or was it 20? 20 we'll do even lower. Let's do 10. Pretty cool. Now what I'm noticing is I don't know if I really want to, okay, let's fix something here. I don't like how narrow that goes in towards the thread area here. So let's just change, I just want to change one little thing here. If I could. Okay, I'm just going to let's just grab some of these points here. Let's go to the vertices. I don't know why I can't see my vertices right now. Alright, so what I want to do is grab an edge. Okay. Let's grab maybe just this edge here. Somewhere around here. And I want to use soft selection, and I just want to get an area here where I can just want to slightly bulge this out just a bit. Maybe even like okay, so I just want to do a slight modification. I'm going to have to get this guy back in there. Open editor here. Let's drop these guys in. So what's happening here is once we're dropping the screws in, it's just pretty much ignoring the box, so we need to make sure we have a collider. So let's go into that and do a physics collision. Let's pop that down below here, and we want to make sure that we are on mesh. So this way, it's going to recognize that mesh. Okay, so we're going to have it all kind of... Oh, and we have to also pick this. Okay, so make sure the box is selected, and now it will all remain inside. Perfect. Okay, so what I want to do is I'm going to expand our simulation here. I want to do like, let's do like 1,000 screws, and let's get it in. I guess we can say 100 of them. Look at that. It's just going to keep piling in there. Okay, and it's just still constantly simulating here. So 1,000 screws, and we're going to end at, let's see here, let's do 200. Okay, so we're just adding 200, and we'll expand our timeline here to 200. Or we can do is we'll say 1/5. Okay, let's do 200, but then let's add 250 here. Just going to finish up. There we go. Okay, so we're going to go to our final frame here. And what we have is, it looks pretty cool. We can hide that guy for now. And you can see we have the pile of screws here. Okay. And what we could do is we'll hide this guy. And now we can start to work with this. And we're pretty much getting a nice little layout of the screws. And this is what I'm looking for. Okay. So what I'm going to do is going to go up to the top. We're going to add a plane. And now we can start to kind of render the screws out. So plane, let's add this as to ground. Like so. Okay, that's looking good. It's already at the ground level. So we can now start to set up our cameras here. So I'm going to go over to, let's just remove some of our segments here. I'm just going to call this 4. We're going to create a physical camera here and just drag it out. We're going to just come up a little bit here. For now, we're just going to try to get a nice little angle. Somewhere maybe around here. Okay, we'll play with this in just a moment here, but we're getting a nice little setup going. Alright, so now the fun part begins. We can now, we're going to be on the 250 frame here for now, and we can also collapse this animation so it's just one mesh like this. But for now, I'm just going to leave it, and we're going to bring up our render view. I'll just drag this guy over here. Okay, and so right now you don't see anything happening. So the reason for this is because Tyflow here, you need to actually add a mesh operator to view the geometry. So let's go over into the editor here and let's just tag in a mesh operator, which is right here. So we're just going to drag that down at the bottom here. And once we refresh this guy, you're going to see our mesh will appear. Excellent. Okay. Now everything is looking not so good because we don't have anything and no lighting set up at all in here. So what we're going to do is we're going to go over to our lights, Arnold light, and we're going to look for the sky dome, and we're going to put this in over here in the corner. Okay, so now we're going to get some shadows. We got this like really bright material. Okay, but we're going to change that. So first things first, what we're going to do is bring up our material editor. We're going to go over to the light property itself, our sky dome light. We're going to add in a texture, and again, I'm going to add in an HDR lighting that I like to use. So I'm going to go to OSL shader, environment, and we're going to just drag in maybe like, let's see here, something with a nice little, maybe like small hanger. Let's try that. And what I'm going to do is drag that map into our material editor here as an instance. And now we can actually see the image here. Alright, and what we need to do now to really kind of see what's really happening is we are going to need to... okay, I just had a little bit of a report here. Let me just go back into our render setup here. And I just want to come down. I just don't want to right now use the TX files here. I'm just going to remove these guys for now. Okay. We'll clear this guy out so we don't have anything going on. Okay, and now let's add a material. Surface, we're going to go standard surface. Let's drag it in into our Tyflow object here. Actually, we want to be putting it to the Tyflow. object. So I'm just going to drag this guy over to Tyflow. Just apply it there. Okay, we're just doing a single object, so nothing to worry about with multi-texture or multi-materials for this tutorial, just the screws themselves. So as you can see, we're starting to get a nice little bit of shading going on here. Okay, so this is looking way better than what we had before. So once we darken this up, you can start to see the details coming through. That's looking pretty cool. So, okay. And also what I want to do is, we'll just say this is the screw. And then we're just going to drag one out again. And this is going to be our floor. So make this a little bit darker here. And then we're going to bring up our roughness quite a bit. 8.65 for now. And there we have our screws, okay? So right now as we're looking through our camera, just throw our safe frame on here. This is actually a pretty good area to like see everything, the details. This is looking really cool just off of a really simple, really rough screw that I've created. And you're getting something like this. It looks pretty cool with the shading and all that. So right now what we're doing is we're just relying on our HDR. And our HDR is giving us a pretty cool result. But I want to make this a little bit more dramatic and give it a little bit more of a darker, but with more light coming through kind of feel. And I want more of like a sunlight hitting it on an angle in a way. So let's do that. And the first thing I want to do is get the general or global lighting to an area where it just looks like it's somewhat diffused lighting, everything, but very, very dim. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to lock this into our physical camera, come over to our perspective, and we are just going to play with our intensity. Well, I guess our intensity we can leave it at 1. We can come down to our contribution here, and what we can do is we can say 0.2 on the diffuse. Okay, so we get a little bit of diffuse for now, and on our specular we're going to bring that down to maybe 0.5. Okay, so we want a little bit of highlight going on. I think this is going to work. We'll see. We're going to play with this a little bit more once we actually start to work on the materials a bit. And actually, what I'm going to do, I'm just going to select an area here, so we get a real fast renders. Okay, and what I want to do is start to work with the material of the screw. Okay, so we can do. There's so many different ways you can go about this, but of the material of the screw itself. But right now, let's start off with getting in some metalness. So as I bring our metalness up, we're going to see this is starting to look like a little bit more chrome. But also what we want to do now is add some roughness, right? Because we want to dull this out a bit. Great. So we get something like this. So what I want to do is I got to find a reference of a screw. So I'm going to do that. Okay, so what we can do is we can play a little bit. Let's see if I can try to get this a little bit. I don't want too much. Okay, so we're going to go. Something like that. Okay, so something, we're just going to move around a little bit of this. Okay, and what also I might want to do is just slightly darken these guys a bit as well. And I want to look for, we're going to have to add a little bit of a noise to the specular. So let's do that. So I'm going to come down to specular roughness, drag it out. Let's do a noise on this one. Okay, so we're starting to see a little bit of that going on. Okay, let's go 0.2, 0.2, 0.2. So maybe go the other way around. 10, 10, 10. Or actually, I'm going to go 3. Sorry, I'm just whipping numbers out here. 3, 3, 3. Okay, so that's not too bad. Give yourselves a little more octaves. Get a little more detail out of this guy. And I might even go with 5. Yeah, that's looking better. Okay, I want a little bit of texture going on in there. I think that's starting to really help. We can also take this as well and let's drag one out of this noise and go into our normal. I'm going to drag out a bump map, bump 3D, and just drag this into our map. Okay, so we get it like this. It looks very, it's very rough at this point, but we can bring this down quite a bit. Just lost the batteries on my mouse here. It's fun. Just fix that. We are stuck. Okay. I'm about 0.01. I want them to look a little bit beat up. Okay? Maybe even, I don't know, that's kind of cool. Alright, that looks pretty cool. It's very procedural, but it looks, yeah. Let's do it. Alright? I think this is going to work, actually. This is, yes. Yeah. Alright. Now let's add some lighting that we can really start to get a dramatic feel going on here, okay? So what I want to do is I like that the lighting's coming around this side. That's going to be our HDR here. But what we ought to do is tone it down and leave it a little bit more. So if I go to 0 here, and even our specular, so we just want to bring this way down for now. I want it to be very low light. Okay, so we're just getting some of the reflections in there. And now let's bring in a new light here where we're going to add this as like kind of like our sunlight. So our camera's here facing downwards, looking at our screws, and we want the light to come from this angle over here, lighting some of the screw areas, or the screw, okay, in these areas here, roughly in the kind of the middle, but maybe more towards the bottom right, is what I'm thinking, okay? So let's go to Arnold light. Let's do a quad. Let's just drag this out, and you can already start to see we're getting something kind of interesting here. Just going to bring that lighting over and up. So what I want to do here is change our quad size. It's too high, so I'm going to go, let's do 10 by 10. So we get something like this. Okay. And then I'm just going to go to our spread and bring that down so we get more of the sunlight. This is kind of what I'm going for. Okay, that's actually totally at 0. I don't want it to be exactly at 0. That's looking pretty cool. I'm going to bring this down even more. 5 by 5. Okay, so we have something more like this. I just want to drag it even lower. lower, or maybe not too low. Okay, something like that. And our spread, it's going to be a little bit more tighter, but it should do. I'm going to bring up our exposure a bit. Okay, now that might be a little bit too. I want a little more light coming onto this guy, so let's just maybe even. All right, let's go 8 by 8. Yeah, it's starting to look better. Okay, it's darker in the corners, but we're still getting a lot of light hitting our screws here. So what we got to do at this point, there's a lot of options that we can do. We can go. Let's bring down our exposure maybe to 0.3. But I'm like, nah, I kind of want the brightness, the energy, right? So, I want that light to come through. Just light it up a little bit more like this. But back to 1. I'm gonna take this off. I'm gonna go to maybe 5. Okay, and what we also need to do is change our Kelvin, and let's go to 5000. Okay, so it's more like a sunlight here. Okay. It's actually looking pretty good. I think our diffuse for this guy could come up. And start to light some of these guys up a bit more. And maybe our specular might be just a little too high, so we can dial just maybe about 0.3 or so. Okay, that's looking pretty gritty already, so that's looking cool. So I might take the let's see here. What can we do? Maybe the spread is too. Let's maybe spread it out just a little bit more. I just don't want to. What I'm looking for here at this point is just making sure that these are not too bright. Okay, in this area, so the highlights over in here, up in the top where their screws are closer to that light source. I just want to make sure that they are looking pretty good. I think that's looking good, all in all. Okay, so what will make this really interesting, and I'm going to test this, is let's add a little bit of global lighting to this, not global lighting. I'm looking for an atmosphere lighting. So we can do that by going into our render setup here, and I'm going to go over to, if you go down to Arnold Render tab here, we're looking for the environment, background, atmosphere selection here, or drop down. We're going to go to atmosphere, drag out or apply surface atmosphere volume, and then from there we can drag out sort of volume into our material slot here, and our density, we can say density 1 for now. It's a lot, but that's okay. 0.5. Okay, so right now it is fully it's too bright. So what we got to do now is go into our properties here. I'm just going to make sure, I think, because it's not a direct light, I don't believe this will apply for our skylight, but whatever, I'm just going to zero it out anyway. And our volume here, let's just kind of get a spot where this is looking pretty cool, right? Like that's already looking quite nice. And I think what we can do between these two, okay, we can really do something maybe like this, bring this down a little bit, so we're just getting some out here. Okay, that's already looking really cool. Might want to add maybe a little more, but nothing too crazy here. And that actually already is, I am very happy with that result. Very low settings here, but just enough to kind of give it some weight in the air. And now I think all we are really missing at this point is some depth of field, which is going to really help when it comes to realism here. So let's go into our depth of field, or in our camera, and add that. So grab the camera. Okay, and we can add depth of field in the properties here. So we go into, let's see here, where are we at? Is it down? Here it is. Enable depth of field. Okay, we are already looking pretty good. If I do, let's tighten this up to about 4. Let's do maybe even 2. Let's get real shallow. Okay, we're just gonna, I may just need to bring this guy up a bit more. To here. Oh, that's looking cool. Look at that, guys. This is just with a simple geometry. And then just a very simple, actually, material. Nothing too complex here, but you can get some pretty cool results just by applying just very little. But it looks believable. All right, these look like some gritty screws. I like everything here. I like the way this is looking. And then we got that nice light coming through. Awesome. So I think at this point you could really kind of start to dial in the image a little bit more. You could play with quite a bit of the properties and coloring of the image itself. We could do that here in Arnold, or we could take this into a post software and do it as well. But for now, I can come in. I might want to bring up our exposure a bit here, so we can see the screws a little bit more. Okay, and that was looking really cool. Okay, so then also I might want to just do a little bit of, yes, we can do tone mapping. We can apply a LUT to this. Right now I'm using the ACES, but you can apply a LUTs and make your own kind of style or color style that you want. Get the vibe going that you're going for here. So if I want, I can go into, got some white balance here. I can change a little bit of the white balance. And we can go and change some of this color out a bit. Okay, get some different type of white balance. Just like something that looks pretty cool here. I'm just going to go with the sun. Daylight? Daylight. Like the daylight vibe. We can also add a little bit of color correction to this as well. So we can add some contrast, bring that up. Okay, also we can add a little bit to our highlights more, so we can not touch that. I don't really have to do too much. Our shadows, we can change some of the color of the shadowing. Green, warmer, maybe some blue. But yeah, guys, this is pretty cool. I mean, simple. I can add more. I can add some bolts or some washers and stuff like that. We can just play around with this and add more geometry to make this look a little bit more realistic, but just with the screws themselves, this looks pretty cool. Well, guys, this will conclude this video tutorial. It's a little bit shorter of one, and hope you guys learned something from this with using Tyflow to kind of just emit some particles of our screws to kind of place them all in together here, and then just do a little small modifications to the materials themselves to make them look a little bit more rough, and there's some breakup in here, and then adding a little 1 or 2 lights into the scene and add some volumetrics and get something like this. A little bit of depth of field as well. Goes a long way. So guys, I hope you learned something from this tutorial, and stay tuned for more. And yeah, we'll catch you later, guys. Thanks very much for watching. Take care.